right, welcome to a blooper-free start here on the O Show. It's becoming a norm. Yeah, okay. It's becoming the blooper. We like. I don't want to get to the stage where we kind of like had to make bloopers just for the blooper reel. But today, fresh start here, and we've got Dane, Racno, Friedman with us, CS:GO player. And
you look at me like a
because I want to say next is that you're actually you're now well versed in CS:GO. You've been holding up playing
six games in a row, I believe.
Six wins in a row.
I'm thinking of quitting and just quit while you're ahead.
Yeah, quit while you're ahead. Don't ever play again.
I was telling Luca last night after I won my first game was that that's my squash career as well. I played one game of squash in my life, which I won, and I've never played squash again.
So undefeated. Yeah. Hold on to that.
Yeah. Well. Mr. Dane, thank you so much for being here. As we do with all our guests, we just ask you to give us a little brief introduction to who you are. You don't have to go through your entire life story.
Oh, damn it, that's how I came here.
We just want to know for the viewers, pleasure.
It does have to rhyme.
Yeah, that's to rhyme. It has to be. Are we doing this now?
Oh my God.
Okay, no.
Panic in the guy's eyes.
That just came out.
Because I did it last week. I said to the last guest, I was like, you got to rap about your history.
It's not a strong point of mine.
Well, just tell us the brief history of Racno and CS 1.6, CS 1.5, CS:GO, etc.
Jeez, way before that. Started in the betas. My brother, Garage Lands, pretty much, him and some mates and things like that. Actually started in Action Quake, sort of the founding of CS. Sort of big time hobby and everything like that. Then went off to high school, which boarding school, so I didn't really play all that much. Obviously in holidays I play a lot. After school I picked it up quite seriously. So I really started in like 2006. I came back, I went to the US. I actually played at CPL, so WSVG over there, where a bunch of mates and myself made like a mixed team. And we ended up playing like Mouse Sports, Element, real like legends of the game. I remember getting jump headshotted by Element and saying, shit, I want to do that one day.
I've never watched that again.
No, it was crazy. And then came back here, started a team basically, with a whole bunch of like-minded guys from Cape Town. We did pretty well considering.
What was that team's name?
Daedal, DAEDAL. And it was like a whole lot of guys like Rage, a guy named Pally, AIDS, how appropriate obviously. And then we had a guy named, Nicky, I forget Nicky, it was like a Turner was his nick or something like that. And we had like quite a low skill cap, but so we traded off for like heavy team play. And we actually did really well in terms of the Cape Town scene. Then I got recruited into PM. And PM, we went to ES World Cup where we mega disappointed and underperformed ourselves, and sprung off, started a little team with a bunch of like really good Cape Town players like Cookies, Hackham, Travis actually Astrix, and I think I can't remember who the other guy was, but then that was the time with like Virtue and all those guys and whatnot. And then I got recruited into Bravado, and that was pretty much the history gone. And I've been playing on and off, so obviously through travels and stuff like that, I was playing on and off with Bravado since like about 2007 through to 2015. So long haul.
Yeah, just to catch Gareth up to speed, so it was...
And our listeners.
And our listeners, and our listeners, and Gareth. Bravado, you played for them, you got a couple of DGL titles under your name.
Yeah, I think I got three or four, something like that. 3 or 4 DGL
titles. You went to ESWC with them last year. Prior to that, you went to Dreamhack with them. And that's... Yeah, to say, like you mentioned all your history up until then, and then obviously now the stages with Bravado Gaming. But let's jump back again. I want to know a bit more about CPL, because I was completely unaware with this.
Freaking awesome, man.
I'll be brutally honest with you right now. When Luca's like, we should have Dane on the podcast, I was like, Dane, he's got a really good voice, but why Dane?
I'm going to take that compliment. It's all I've had today.
I always said, like, if he ever wanted to get into shoutcasting, I'd probably be without a job, or I'd find my number 2. Who knows? But like,
you can be my wingman.
So you can tell me about CPL. And I mean, I had absolutely no idea up until then that you had previously to ESWC and Dreamhack traveled overseas and ESWC as well prior to. I thought it was the first time going was last year, but let's talk about CPL. So that wasn't, back in those days, there weren't necessarily like qualifiers.
No, it was crazy. So there was like a whole BYOC group and everything going into it. So bring your own computer, obviously. And it was nuts, because it was held at, don't mock the name of this thing in Dallas, Texas, called the Gaylord Texan. It's enormous. It's like... It's the CTICC, but bigger, basically. Everything's bigger in Texas. I love Texas. But it was freaking amazing. My eyes got blown because, I went to this thing. First up, you go to it. So I paid my entrance, all these things. I bought a PC over there and all these things. I was staying with some family friends. I was like, shit, I got to go to this. They had fiber back then in their home. I was like, my eyes were this big. First thing I did when I got Steam in this new PC was I was like, download every game. And it just ticked through the list like that. And I was like,
get the credit card, buy all the games, do everything.
Even back then, there weren't that many. There were so many free options. I had a Steam list that was like 20 games long or whatever, which for back then was awesome. So I got in my car, which had over there was $1,000 car. It was a piece of shit, but I mean, it was a piece of shit that gave me independence.
How long were you there for? That you had a car?
I was there for a little over 4 months.
Okay, so you were there for quite a while.
Yeah, it was really, really, really awesome. It was part of my gap year,
so this was after school.
You gotta have a
gap year, so this gap year, and I decided like when I returned that I really wanted like start something in CS as well. And I just got big time inspired and a real opportunity to do it, but. Back to CPL. So at that stage it was CPL Summer, which was actually WSVG was what it was named, World Series of Video Games. I think that's what it was.
Back before eSports was coined as the number one term.
Yeah, but it was nuts because CPL at that time was like the event. Dreamhack was on, I think, as well, but CPL was the worldwide event.
And they were huge. I mean, they just kind of fell apart.
It was all into politics and theft and things, but it was nuts because I mean. So cool. So go there, and let me put it this way. So there was this huge hall. I mean, you're talking like 100 by like 60 meters, full of PCs. I mean, I'd never seen a LAN like this. It was just nuts. I'm sure Rage, I think, was going on and sort of starting and whatnot. 2006, and it was just nuts. Then you went to the next middle hall, and it was just this display. So it was like all of your exhibitors and whatnot. I mean. Freaking like Verizon Wireless had a Hummer there with speakers blowing out and everything. It was so cool. I mean, I played a game. I won a Radeon graphics card as well. In the one thing I did rock, paper, scissors for like a championship because Modern Warfare, I think Ghost Warfare, something like that. Tom Clancy's one of them was out.
Ghost Recon.
And it was nuts because, you saw all the best products, everything like you wish you could see in South Africa packed in this hall, and it was nuts. And then they had the competitive hall. And that was the tournament Complexity actually won. So that was like Justin Summy. It was like Warden, Fraud, all of those guys. It was freaking nuts. I mean, you even had Michael Dell came there. Robin Williams was at the event. Like just in passing. It was nuts and things like that.
Just a quick question, just before we forget about it. You talk about the expo. Now, looking at 2006 Dallas, then looking at now, was it Austin or Dallas? It was Dallas.
It's Dallas. Yeah.
Looking at that now, 2006, looking at Rage now, like how do they compare? Like have we kind of caught up now?
Rage is world class. I mean, you can say what you want about a lot of things. The exhibition hall is awesome. I mean, in terms of like, you can only do what you in the space provided. So let's consider you got a massive open LAN. You got a Dreamhack. I mean, they put you on pallets. I'm not joking. They got pallet, and then they put a top on it. That's your table there. I mean, we're in South Africa. We're fussy. We need our 90 plus centimeters to game on and stuff. I swear, I know other Swedes play with high sets because they can give it a keyboard, and that is the mouse
now
space.
Now you can understand why people were getting so mad last year. They started to see when players are complaining about having like 80 centimeters to play with. Like I said,
but it is ridiculous. Like on a competitive front, size of mouse pads and things. Well, you're looking 92 meters in the ideal world. But I mean, it was nuts just to go and see this. Dreamhack is such a rustic event. It's not like la-di-da, that's sophisticated.
Really?
No, it's crazy. It is literally still like a barnyard LAN. It's got that like element about it. Yeah, okay, sure. Like
it looks so flashy on stream. Like it looks.
It's unreal. Crazy, but it's not. Like if you go to the core fundamentals of it, I mean, it's crazy. But like all the right areas are. So like if you're a player, like the setups are beast and things like that, and they've only got better. I mean,
the grand final sort of
like
stage is always going to be.
It's amazing what they do over there and what they've got access to. Like the exhibitor hall is amazing as well. It's really good, but. It's not something like.
But that's where the money is, because the exhibitor hall, those guys are paying for that space. The
LAN
is like
it's also kind of hard to compete where like you've got Scream 1v1ing people in a cage that looks kind of similar to a UFC thing.
Oh, yeah?
Like you combine all of those things together. I mean, he literally was out in our hotel. He wasn't part of a team at that stage or anything, because FaZe, which was, I forgot the name of it beforehand,
FaZe with G2.
Yeah, hadn't been formed yet and things like that.
Right.
And he was there in this UFC hall, UFC
stats,
arena. No, where's the stats? No, it was nuts. But I mean, look. The thing is, like, to put it all together is really, really tough. I think elements we do as well as, if not better. I think the standard of a lot of our things we don't have to hold back on.
Yeah.
Obviously, in terms of my personal gut and feels like things that we do need to catch up on big time are our level of production, because this is how the world sees things as well.
What's actually on the stream and on TV. Yeah.
You watch but those things take time, and also they take a lot more competitions to get there. Guys like Anders and Semler, they started casting from their homes a competition like every week and things like that, but there were those competitions.
Like, how did you get so good? It's like, I've been doing it for 2 years. Same as the casters here, but their 2 years is 200 games. Our 2 years is 20, 30 games.
Like, it's not really, it's not that fair. And I mean, like, things like access to decent internet connections, they're actually tough as well in this country to do. I mean, only now fiber's starting to come on, and I mean, here's a great location to
across
do.
Cape Town just to stream last night.
Yeah, apparently you had a little bit of a moment where your video uploaded in like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
No, that must have broken you, eh?
I came to upload a Dota compilation I'd done. 500 megs, that would have been about 3 hours of upload back at my place on a 10 meg line. Yeah, what is it, 10 minutes?
No, it's incredible.
Awkward silence.
Yeah, you're like, what am I going to do with the other 2.5 hours I put aside for this?
We kind of like, we sometimes upload like 5 gig files and stuff, and it takes an hour to a couple of hours, but it's still much better than having like a 1 meg up. But I agree with you, like talking in terms of production, like when it comes to consumer events, like the Rages, the EGEs, the like even that Samsung event I went to and stuff like that. Any event I've gone to, like those events are fantastic. All the production is done perfectly. Everything's laid out perfectly. There's an order. But when it comes to these esports events, I mean, like I would say of the tournaments we've seen up to date, I think the Rage DGL that was at Rage, that was maybe a step in the right direction. They had the stage in the actual expo
like
hall
area as well,
in the hall, people boarding a lot of foot traffic, people coming watching, stuff like that. It looked professional. It had its hiccups every now and then. There were a couple of technical issues, a couple of sound issues there, and in terms of the casters and stuff like that, it wasn't as professional as it could have been, but that's a step in the right direction. And like taking those people out of the basement, putting them up into the expo area, bringing them into this kind of area where everyone can come and sit and see and look. And I agree with you when you say, like, we are at that level where it's just like in terms of those kind of events. But if you want to start bringing esports to that level, like what like if you had to compare, just look at the esports events over there. I mean, yes, they have much bigger viewers and much bigger communities, but like if the events you've been to over there compared to here in terms of, I don't know, production, esports, stuff like that, what would you say? What would you like to see in the near future?
So, look, everything, like anything that you actually do takes time, and you've got to continue to keep working on it. Like, one of the things I felt as a player, like in South Africa, was there was never any desire to like improve yourself. So competition, so if you got to the top end of competition, you used to just stay and say, oh, we'll do enough just to win it, because there wasn't sort of any like there wasn't anyone really pushing you. I remember, I mean, when we got to the top end sort of at SA, trying to just practice was tough, because what are you really practicing for?
Just to be where I am.
So now you sit here, you host the DGC. So every year you host the Do Gaming Championships. You are the premier. What are you striving to compete against? So now you suddenly got things like the EGE land, you've got Arena obviously coming on board, you've got all of these other sort of competitors, so to speak, hosting events. So now there's actually a need so we are the best and we are doing the best sort of thing, whether that's through production. I mean, look, I attended day one of the DGC Masters, and I mean, I love the booths, I love the idea, but there are still things that they got to work at, and I know they know those things, whether it's from a casting. I mean, I know they brought in a third-party production crew and things like that. But for instance, they had that awesome screen, but the screen was delayed. There are certain like things whether it comes to sound. These are things that they've got to figure out over time. You don't think that like I mean, who are the guys who do the international one? Is it the PGS or PGL or something like that? Like their production value is off the charts. I mean, we saw stuff like ESLs and all these things, and these guys came out of like nowhere in Romania, whatever the hell, and they just blew everyone's by like camera angles and things like that. That is the new standard of what is expected.
Yeah, that like replays, player cams, player stats.
But half the problem is like the crowd that you're trying to get, so the people watching online, they've got access to that sort of level. They've got access to
that's the standard.
And unfortunately, if you know anything about gamers, when you know what's available internationally, you immediately just everything else tastes sour. Especially like there's none of this like local loyalty going. Well, this is good for a South African standard. We should. I
disagree completely. It sets the standard for what is measured. So if you go out there,
I'm not saying you shouldn't aspire to that. But what I reckon is the problem is people go, I could be watching world class, or I could be watching a South African event that's not really looking that well, and so. Yeah, this must spurn guys on to work at a world class.
So whose duty is it actually to get there? Is it the duty of the viewers who can select whatever content they want?
Not at all. I'm not trying to push anyone to go. And I've used this analogy before. You can't say, "Oh, I'm South African, so you should support me as a South African. You should support me." And I use the example of if you had a restaurant. Sorry, our food's shit, but if you support us, the food will get better. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
It goes, if you've tasted whatever, some sort of food overseas, and now you come local, you're not going to go, oh well, I'm going to eat this because it's local and it's South African. It's got to be
I get what you're saying.
I kind of like that way that you went about that too. Like I'm hungry. I'm just dropping hints too.
You looked at me and you said the analogy I've used, but I actually haven't heard you say it before. It's actually fantastic. Yeah, the food, come eat my restaurant just because it's African. And
because a lot of people play on it, like going, oh, we're South African, you should support it. Yeah, but it's got to be good enough. I'm not saying it needs to be world class, or you would be at a world class level.
There is a standard.
Well, that was one of that was kind of
push that local is lekker as an excuse to not be good.
Yeah, so that was kind of, I actually sat on the DGC players committee for a while, and it was one of like the most frustrating things is like trying to proactively get the community to react. And by what I mean the community, I actually mean sort of the main sort of honchos. No, not the player base. The player base, generally speaking, is quite willing to change and alter and adapt things quite freely and quickly. But one of the things that annoys me through like bureaucracy and things like that is that it stops that free flowness of like your ability to access. So like if there's a new map coming on or changing rule sets or doing these things, and they're like, well, why do we have to conform to the international standard? Because it's kind of the world standard, and it's the reason is that's where we want to aim to be. And it sounds like kind of retarded, but if you go about like a lot of teams' methodologies and everything these days, the reason why the guys go overseas, it's to get there. It's to understand what they need to do to push the thing to the next limit. And it's the idea behind competition. It's why South African CS at the moment is so exciting. And if you look at the view, I know you guys posted a stat the other day, and it's indicative of why CS is so exciting. The top viewership was 88 million viewers was League of Legends. And I believe it was, the next best was 73 or something like that from CSGO. League of Legends went from 80 the previous years to 88. CS went from 30 something to 70 something. Like, it shows like just how exciting the scene is at the moment. Has it peaked? I don't know. Okay, but to me it doesn't. It really doesn't look like it's peaked. It actually looks like it's developing into something that is spectators so exciting. Player-wise, is really exciting.
I think from an outsider, I've obviously had my first kind of taste of CSGO viewership at the DGL event, and it's a much easier game to grasp compared to.
Well, you got to shoot someone. I mean, how technical does it really get at the end of the day?
But it's got the complexity of going. Why is soccer the world's favorite sport? In terms of numbers and viewership, it's bloody simple. Put the ball in the net. That's how it starts. Then you go, okay, only using anything except your arms. Okay, cool. Then we add offsides. We add the complexity. We add the team tactics.
Yeah, the intricacies.
And that's what gives it the depth, so that people don't go, oh, this is really a
anyone could do it.
Yeah, it's like such a shallow game because all you got to do is kick a ball in the net. You add all those intricacies in. And
why can't I be in front of him?
Yeah, but it's one of those things like when you go, the game must be simple but have depth. And I think that's where CSGO and a lot of FPS games work as a viewership thing. It's pretty simple.
Well, because it's visually it's easy to understand that he's dead or he's alive. Yeah. And like, but on the same level, Dota's defeat their base and our base and things like that.
But they're simple. But then all
spells.
But the individual complexities are quite difficult to understand, like why someone did something so amazing and things
even
like that.
Even the draft. Why did they pick that hero? And why is the crowd going nuts because they banned that hero? Like, why is any of this relevant to me?
Yeah, I mean,
as a person who doesn't watch
the thing for me that always made CS so much. Look, for me, the best FPS in the world to watch, I think, still hands down, it's got to be Quake, because I love that. The intricacies, the details, the map control and things, and just I think the individual skill exerted is just unbelievable. But team-based FPSs, man, CS pretty hard to beat. And why is that? Why is that? Because of what?
Overwatch. You think it's gonna?
No. It's gonna go, but does it have the distance in it? The one thing about CS is CS has been around for ages.
CS's model, like the whole cosmetic skin selling market betting, that thing. I think that's
genius.
That's one of the biggest things that'll make will make CS go untouchable for
a long time.
Very, very, very. I mean, these skins come out, they get more expensive, but.
But I'm saying the Overwatch thing is like, it feels like, I mean, part of the numbers that you quoted there with like, okay, you got LOL, and I mean that's just because it's like a religious level thing in Southeast Asia, you know. In fact, I think probably more people play LOL than go to any kind of church or any sort of religious body. It's ridiculous. But then you almost want to go, let's take the genres as opposed to the games themselves, because part of me goes, and not to kind of like dilute CSGO's like massive fan base, but it's kind of going, it feels like the FPS genre, and particularly the team-based FPS thing, feels like that's in a bit of a dead space, or it
needed a hero. That's the problem. It really needed a hero. So the problem you got is 1.6 was God in terms of gameplay and things. Visually not striking. It's not going to draw new people on. I mean, I watched some old.
Looking at the tech you get now, you play 1.6.
Well, I watched some like old footage, and I was like, Jesus.
It's like watching Dota 1 again. You're like, how did I even play this? I have no idea.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So then you go, well, Quake, right? Yeah. But Quake doesn't quite have the level of appeal because there isn't a team dynamic and things. So then you go Call of Duty. All right, not to mock, because I actually think Call of Duty exerts some of the most crazy skill. I mean, some of the guys play is remarkable. I mean, RoBoHoBo is pretty amateurish, but it's nuts. Like, I mean, the skill. There's that
this was
nifty.
COD 4 specifically, though.
Yeah, no, that is true. But I mean, but there's like that nifty player, whatever, who's playing for Selfless at the moment. He's an ex-COD player as well. Look in our own scene, the amount of COD guys who've transferred into CS. FPS has needed a hero title. CSGO just didn't have the game dynamics that people were interested in terms of gameplay and things. Visually, obviously, a lot more striking. But CSGO was the first merger of this massive community, really, and it actually has given people this, like, so to speak, FPS hero team-based title that they can actually go watch. Now, you go on about Overwatch and things like that. There are space for other FPS titles, absolutely, but what makes CS so unique in many ways is something fundamentally simple. It's the money system. Actually, the money system, and you know, COD, you went around, boohoo, okay, you respawn again with everything that you want, or you can adjust, or whatever it is. And yes, okay, there are a lot of tactics involved in that.
Yeah, they've added like bans and pick snipes items.
But the money system in CS is what really makes it an interesting title, because your options are limited by your economy. Yeah. And I mean, that is
not always best gun, best mods. Yeah.
Well, exactly. I mean,
isn't that last night? Why can't I buy my right?
Yeah, exactly. Especially when you're like, crap, I forgot to buy Kevlar.
No, and I mean, this is what comes into the different dynamics in your team and things like that as well. It's how your makeup of your team can't just be made up of 5 players who always require full nades, or you've got different guys with different strengths. I mean, you've got guys in the SA scene who are phenomenal with pistols. You got guys who are good with AWPs. You got guys who are really, really solid riflers, and you want to utilize those strengths all the time. Like, put them in the best spots. And you know, when your economy is low, like, it's the choices those guys make as well. Swap it over, things like that, and realizing that guy with that weapon can change around. But at the same time, there are a lot of individual players in SA can change rounds like single-handedly just by mad performances. I mean, you see, like, internationally, you see Envious. Well, what I coined, at least, they're going through a bit of an NIP slump at the moment. I mean, they just can't seem to do it right. All of their players, like, individually just seem to lack huge amounts of confidence. These are guys who were touted like less than 6 months ago with being like the most skilled guys in the league, pretty much, just crazy aimers and things like that.
Everyone just caught up and just got better.
Well, did they catch up, or was it just the confidence thing? Because you look at NIP,
NIP
are exerting confidence.
Did you watch that thing?
No, but I really enjoy his stuff. I think he's a controversial arsehole, but I love his stuff.
Do you just he's speaking
brand.
about the whole confidence thing? He does a really great video speaking about confidence, how it can be damaging, how it can't. I mean, what does it mean to be a confident player? What does it mean to be confident in yourself, confident in your team, confident in he's really well.
So ES World Cup. So I'm sitting there talking to Semler, and I'm like, NIP are looking like really good. I mean, we played them at the warm up session there, and they were looking like they were strong. I mean, Cloud9, dude. I think we lost to 16-14 in the warm up or whatever over there, and we were like, nah, I'm not gonna hit it. And he's like, nah, NIP, bro, confidence down. And they lost the flip side with Hiko as a sub. I mean, Hiko played like a beast, don't get it wrong or anything. And that was where Hiko and obviously Simple found one another, and Hikovic, Simple Hiko or whatever came about and whatever. And I remember standing behind them, playing NIP, going into that online, their performance had been crazy and everything. But that land confidence is tricky, and ultimately it led to Alu going out, and you're like, well, there's no real reason why they replaced Alu in terms of a player thing, maybe the language barrier and things like that, but they just needed something new, some sort of resurgence that they could hopefully find some confidence in. I mean, APG getting rid of Zero Chance recently, you sit there and you're like, is it a smart move? A lot of community will go well, James isn't really a great fragger and player and things like that. James is actually really good at what he does. He's brought together, consider this, he started off with SSG Dream, right? They came second in that IS Invitational. All right, that's no name out of nowhere. They came and they did that. There was Golly, there was Craig, there was Phantom. I mean, Phantom transferred from Quake, and they came second in that tournament, right? Then he transitions, he builds this EN team that actually at one stage looks like it's the best team in the country. When they recruit, obviously they got Sonic, they got Tian, they got Elusive, Ruan's really going through a great phase in his game. Then they go ahead, he obviously all of that unfolds, he starts at APG finished second at the Masters, and they finished second, and they finished second here. So you're like, hold on, who's the common sort of point over here? And this guy who manages to build teams.
Think they're going to?
And I played with James in PM and ES World Cup, and for me, I had a lot of negative things about that PM side and things like that, from the thing, because I actually had a fairly decent lane, but I is not in team, and we just did not come together as so. But James has had a remarkable success in terms of what people would expect and what he's actually built around him as a team. So clearly, he's got some sort of recipe that people don't acknowledge a lot of the times. And
future scout for.
Well, maybe people go, well, maybe you should coach. Maybe the guy just wants to play. I mean, I've been asked, to coach or to do other things, or should I form a team or things like that. And it's kind of you don't know what you want to do, because in order to coach, you've still got to have that hunger to play.
Yeah.
I mean, you see it with
passion.
Yeah, absolutely, and it makes it really, really tricky. But I mean, I'm not even sure where the hell this point started. But the thing is to acknowledge different players bring different characteristics to teams.
Since you're on the topic now of SA and stuff like that, we did want to talk about the news that just came out probably half an hour ago about
pizza.
That's the news alert siren.
It's hot. It's hot off the press. They were hot pot.
You're about to ask about thing.
All right, so now we're talking about SA community. Everyone sits up straight now.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. Breaks over, pizza, wipe the pizza off.
So in case you experienced a little jump in the actual video, we had to get some pizza. So, so talking about South African community gaming going forward, big news just popped right now. The ESEA have now opened up in South Africa, and they have a spot for one South African team to go to the ESEA Pro League. Yeah.
Crazy.
Thoughts on that?
Very cool. I mean, look, anything that can enable South Africans to get more international exposure, you got to be pro it. Obviously, my only concern is that I know there are a lot of sort of organizations, you got the Billisoft, you got Arena, You've got obviously now this ESCA. And my biggest chief concern is like, is the market, is South Africa big enough to support all of these?
What do you mean in terms of consumers? So people
Do we have enough consumers?
Yeah.
I mean,
I think so. I mean, I think it's a pity because this is, in my opinion at least, it's going to absolutely destroy Billisoft. And I mean, that's a very unfortunate thing. It's going to destroy any sort of other pug system in South Africa because why would guys play on this when they can play in a ladder, like not a ladder
well,
system,
the only reason that it would is competition.
Yeah.
So the reality of it is, Face It is got the same problem with the ESCA. If you have a look at it now, ESCA has just released its rank S thing. So when I was in the US, this has happened in the duration between me being here and not being here. Face It Pro League was everything. It was the be all and end all. Now ESCA, I don't know if you noticed, has unbanned all of those guys from the US, all of the iBuy plane ticket guys. And I mean that's so bloody funny playing
that's
those guys.
Those are the guys that Courtney busted for the cheating.
It was match. They threw the match.
That's the one
skins.
Yeah, we had Courtney on here.
Yeah, they had like 7K worth of skins or something like that on it, and I bet every single one of those guys must sort of almost vomit in their throats when they think about that, just because the consequences of your actions. And a lot of people are like, free this, free that. I've got the complete different mindset. Yeah. You know what? They are really good players, and they could add a lot of value to the community. But you set the standard, and that's it.
It essentially ripped the entire inner community.
Well, it's the same thing for VAC bans and all of these things. These contentious issues. I mean, look. I saw you guys were chatting about Invert the other day. Look, I don't know if you've seen that footage of him sort of one flicking and then going back. Yeah. Like, to me, absolutely looks like a hack. Obviously, I'd like to see more things and whatnot. My personal viewpoint is like he's at best an average player. So maybe you want a leg up or something like that. I don't know the mindset of an individual and all these things. Bunny hop scripts are full of bullshit, because the reality is you go into the go fast B hop servers, you hold down spacebar, it's an auto B hop function. You don't need a bunny hop script. The reality of it is it's a skill set thing, and even if you were cheating at it and people saying, well, you don't get scripts for that or whatever, even if you got a cheat at a bunny hop script, you should get banned. My absolute opinion on it. So you want to play around with that shit on spoof accounts or all that sort of stuff, you need to know the consequences of it are serious.
And we haven't heard from him since.
And set an example.
Yeah, we haven't
set an example. You want the international community, you follow through in the local community.
Yeah.
If he wants to be part of events or part of teams or something, he's going to have to find 4 other guys who are VAC banned and start something like that.
Team,
No, I'm serious. Obviously, look, I'm sure there are those who are wrongly accused, but in this case, it's his duty to prove that he was wrongly accused. And saying articles and things like that isn't true. I mean, you go back to the point where the Dazed and all these guys, they were right to the point in which all of the evidence put them, and they were guilty by, there was no way out of it. They said, absolutely not, or find me proof that says this or whatever. They were like, I would never do that. On their streams and whatnot. And as the whole story came out, and now they go and they cry. Had they probably come out and said, well, you know what, I did do it, they probably would have been reinstated with the time frame.
Didn't Nothing do that? I mean, didn't he admit to like playing around with cheats and stuff with LAN with friends, something back in 1.6? It was a video somewhere.
He was a real youngster.
Yeah, I was a youngster, and he just came out and said, yeah, I used to hack with my friends and stuff. We used to play around and stuff with hacks, but I've never done it in comp. And everyone was like, we all did it.
I love the way we all do it. I mean, I've got a moral compass that I refuse to sort of do all that sort of shit. But there are guys who've done it and they've messed around. I mean, for God's sakes, who didn't on Doom go godlike mode or God mode or whatever the hell it was? Fair enough, but I mean
altering stuff in your actual file, like changing your open 3GL.
Well, we were over at Dreamhack. It was the whole flasher syndrome. The whole thing went, and it was hostile. Yeah. I mean, it really was. But I'll tell you this much. First up, he raped us. He destroyed us. I mean, he is one of the best gamers in the world. He's phenomenal what he does, and his ability to win unwinnable rounds and turn 4-on-1s into 1 versus 1 versus 1 versus 1 is unparalleled. Like, he is crazy good at it. But on the sidelines, really a decent human being. Like, I mean, first guy to get up, shake hands, all of these things. And guys were like stonewalling them. They weren't shaking his hand, and it was.
I think it was Pasha or Neo who made that video, like walking up to his like mouse. It's like, here's the cheater's mouse. Here's the cheater's mouse pad. Let's see if there's any cheats on the mouse.
It was hostile. Hey? It was crazy. But I'll tell you what, as a unit, they were so knit and tight, sort of impermeable. And I mean, they were mad. That whole LDLC thing was really rough as well to be around. The controversy of like pixel walk, all this other mumbo and texture.
It was MBS.
Yeah, no, it was LDLC at the time. That was their name in the organization. Listen, I lost $300 in skins on that game.
Wasn't it MBS?
Or two, whatever.
Was it Overpass?
Overpass. So I had a bet on LDLC. 12-3 half.
Yes.
Win pistol, we've got this.
I had $170 on that.
We've got this, no problem whatsoever. They do this, and I've got a bone to pick with Honey because they paid out most skins, and I maintain they should have held them until the official or sent them all back or something like that, because it was so controversial.
Let me just explain exactly what happened. So on Overpass, there was a point in the A bomb site where they would essentially they would use 3 men to make the boost, but they would make a boost where they could literally get to almost at the top of the map and literally look straight down into the terror spawn, and they were just buying auto snipers and stuff like that and just literally picking off the team as they were coming out of the spawn.
Area on Overpass.
It was
someone had found like a glitch or whatever where you could basically
it was a pixel walk. So they it
wasn't a pixel walk. It was they got them on technicality, on textures and
so they were standing on an invisible texture that existed in the maps. Obviously,
no. It was the ability to manipulate the texture and then see through. But the irony is, the texture manipulation added 0 value to it. But it was only like the technical thing that they could get both teams on. It was because like LDLC had a similar boost, it just wasn't as good as Fanatics, and henceforth.
But it's like when you see guys do, I mean, obviously based on the Half-Life model, and when I've seen guys do those speed playthroughs on Half-Life, they finish in like 40 minutes. But a lot of the stages they like texture walk because they'll find like a corner where the map's a U shape.
But
if you get through this wall because there's some weird thing you can jump over, you just skip the whole level.
Yeah, look, it becomes a lot more controversial. See, that's one versus one.
Especially when you lose $170
because it's cheating. That's the thing.
Max bet, I think it's 300 or whatever. And I'm also don't follow my betting pattern because I lost on the Elson rig. You remember Elson? All of those guys got thrown in, the Polish guys for match fixing. $300 bet there as well. I was lost on the iBuy Power match throw as well, $300. So at that
match bets, eh?
No, at a stage I was rolling in it. But I understand.
Everybody goes to that stage.
I was rolling in it at one stage.
I mean, Luke was explaining to me with guys loading up for local games because you'd have international guys who don't know our local scene.
Well, now they do. Now they're stats.
And they'll go like, oh my word, it's BVD versus...
Let me tell you
side.
And it'd be like, and everyone's voted 90 to 10. They're like, oh my word, easy money, vote against BVD.
It was like that. And I made a shit ton of money off South African games.
Because the players.
One very, very unethical thing happened, and I vowed never to do it again on SA Games. I was shoutcasting a game. It was DC versus Nav. They were playing Mirage in a best of one. The odds were 50-50. And back then, DC was a team you don't fuck with. Like, they were strong. But Nav had a secret weapon by the name of Sonic. And Nav crushed them. And I'm shoutcasting. I got like $250 on this game. I'm shoutcasting. I bet heavy on DC because I was like a $700 payout or something like that. And so when the game started, DC got a good few rounds. I was like, fuck yeah, this is my money. And I'm like amping the cast, I'm having fun. Boom, switches, Sonic turns on, everyone just gets fucked, everyone starts losing, and I'm sitting there like trying to cast, and I'm like inside I just threw away so much money, and I was like, this is the most unprofessional moment of my life. And after that,
so you just didn't voice him there after he's just done the below the mouth.
So I was just looking at the stream, everyone's like, what the fuck. But anyway, so we keep
Nav really looked to be on fire today, or one individual over here.
And then after that I went on the fucking whole Sonic witch hunt, like I was following everyone's steps. Sonic's a hacker, Now obviously that's obviously not true.
No, it definitely hacks now.
No, but like that's your old team you're talking about. But we still have so much stuff to talk about.
Once you BVD, you're BVD forever, okay?
I live with the BVD, and I know exactly.
I mean, he plays for a different team, but you BVD. I mean, you forget as well. Like most people see this monster BVD. When I joined it, they'd really gone through. They were consistently in finals versus DC back in the day.
Yeah.
And then they lost out to a team, Zeddy. And Zeddy was a combination, Unreal, Dill. It had like, Prem was the guy's name. It had Hazard. What's his StarCraft name? Rob StarCraft. I mean, he was in that team.
Panda.
Yeah, Panda Tank or whatever his name is. He used to play CS. Really good structured players, like kind of like Chase, like very very good, like just all round gameplay and everything.
You could put him in a match of chess and probably wreck.
I'd probably wreck everyone. He's a very structured good player. And dude, they went through like a low patch. Surge, ex-DC sort of player as well, retired, said I'm not going to jam anymore. And I got called up as hell of a lucky, they'd heard about me a little bit, that I'd gone overseas and things like
Bravado,
that.
Or?
For Bravado. And I remember like playing pickups. I was playing a lot of pickups at that stage with Corrupt, who was playing for Bravado at the time, as well as Deviant as well. And they were new additions to the Haji brothers. I mean, I love the Hajis. They're my best. They're some of my best mates. And I mean, they're an epic combination who've definitely had a huge impact on South African gaming. And I mean, dude, we started jamming and things started clicking. It was just really, really, really awesome. I mean, I went to go and LAN up at Richard's house. We used to LAN in the garage there. My PC, I always had PC problems. I mean, I had to borrow his sister's PC there.
You were pulling apart a PC at ESWC last year, trying to fit a graphics card in there.
Well, exactly. I am prone to PC problems. You can put me at anyone else's PC and I pretty much can play on it. But my PC, never works properly. Yeah, when
you were sitting there, you was trying to get this massive graphics.
I got it in, by the way.
He was like,
and then X51.
I think there were talks of swords at some stage or something. I just can't remember. I was just sitting there watching. I was like, this week just cannot get any worse. Like this is reaching like bottom.
Velcro and duct tape can do anything.
But
I fully understand this whole. I would say camaraderie with Bravado and the organization, the people that play for the people that leave, and why they still feel, because like back in the day, before your energies exist, before your new organizations existed, Bravado was the one team that went out of their way. I don't even want to know how much debt both Andreas and Dimi put themselves in getting that organization off the start, because they created a lot of opportunities for guys in the beginning, and I can fully understand the guys that stuck with them through where they just started, and everything's were tight, and then obviously now things are
look. You also get it from the other side, where the guys that stick with them, but also betray them. It's you can be dead to them as well.
You're always the loudest people at every fucking LAN. I never used to play CS. I used to be Dota, dude. I used to be a Dota guy. I would walk past the CS section to go cast, and I'd be like, these fucking animals, what are they shouting about? And now I get it. Dude,
it's crazy. You win an intense round. It's the feeling, or
and
you know what,
like
that feeling when you
people.
clutch. I mean, I still to this day remember like my first Bravado like LAN, and like having like a clutch moment here and there versus the Funny Cook brothers style in Holland. And dude, that the team just went fucking nuts next to me, and it sticks with me, those sort of moments when you win those insane rounds, or you have insane
especially
achievements,
when they were watching a lot,
and exactly, and they're watching you doing these things. And I like playing with them. The amount the Haji brothers taught me was unparalleled. They actually made me the player that I ultimately became, and then I was able to build on what they'd given me. And obviously not just myself, but pass it on to other guys who we brought into BVD and things like that. And a lot of people go like, oh, BVD, this CS monster, they always recruit the best players. Well, a lot of people don't acknowledge is that BVD actually trains a lot of the really good players. So they actually make them. So when you get
that kind of finds them out of nowhere.
Yeah, to an extent. But here's what a lot of people don't also understand is they think when you join BVD that you're good enough.
Already made it.
You're not good enough. You're not. So like Sonic joins BVD, he's not good enough. They'll make him better. And you'll watch, they will and do make him better. And like, that's why I'm so pro this current lineup. Like Golly was a freaking monster at the end of last year. Like he really was, raping and things like that. If you ask Golly now, he'll say he's a better player and he's becoming a better player. And maybe his frags are less, he's maybe goes through less crazy plays and things like that. But he will say that he's becoming a better player and contributor to the whole team. So you've got to understand, like, the value those two brothers add is tremendous. And Andrea, as an organizational sort of leader, he is so competitive. It's crazy. He wants to, people go like, oh, this or that. Like, he wants to be the best. Like, he doesn't want competition because he wants to be so much better than everything, and it pushes him, and you see it come through in the team.
Because, I mean, you were talking about the problem in the past was that, you know, you'd get to be the best in South Africa, and then there was just this, well, we putting in 40% effort for a random number, and we're really the best in South Africa. What's the point in going further? And it feels like there's like this critical mass happening where not only are South Africans getting an opportunity to go overseas, where in the past, like you said, you're getting absolutely curb stomped. And so it's a case of going, no, when we get these shots, these tickets to go to overseas competitions, we can't be the, like, almost the guys who got invited out of sympathy for Africa type thing. It needs to be
I mean, I was one of those guys, so let's...
You're getting to a stage now where, like, that's not good enough to go, we're the best in South Africa. Yeah, well, who the fuck cares? Because people are watching on the international stage.
I've been the prettiest girl of the DMV.
So let's just put
but both... also, that's the top part. It also feels like from the bottom, like, BVD are still pretty much the strongest MGO in the country, but it honestly feels from the outside that, like, the tide is rising. As in,
it is, definitely.
Even though if they're still in the top, what they need to stay there is so much more than it ever was.
That's why I say this thing's so exciting, is because, again, like you say, like, not just on the MGO front, but division to division front. You know, you spoke earlier about WRG giving the Dota 2 BVD guys a run on a map here or there, and Carbon falling a little bit off the boil, but maybe that's practice based or something. Okay, and you're like, you know, my mind dating back, it's like BVD only lose games because in Dota at least, no, because they're trolling. I mean, I remember them playing like a final, and they only selected heroes that ended in ER, like Sniper and things like this, and it was next level retardedness. But then, you know, they got a wake up call. I mean, they went to that other tournament at Rage and they lost. I mean, they lost. And, you know, here's a wake up call. So they played it dead serious, and I tuned Leon. I was like, Leon, you cost your team there. And I mean, it was crazy. So, like, put the argument to bed, like, every single BVD lineup I've ever been a part of and things like that, one way or another, when or if I've come into it and things, has been at a moment where it's either been a trouble and needs rejigging and repurposing, but it's ended off being the best team in the country. So the argument of, we would have gone over and we would have done better, does not have any fly or any case with me, because the reality is you lost to us. So you can do all these things. I mean, Energy had the thing where they were going over to ES World Cup. That semi-final, it's got to be one of the great games. I didn't have a particularly great game.
Was it the grand final?
No, it was a semi-final, and it was one of the great games. Because I was talking to Elusive about it the other day. We stomped them on Dust 2. I think the map score was 16-13 or something like that. But we were never out of control of it, because, I mean, we were at match point at like 15-7 or something. It wasn't crazy. We never felt like we were behind in that game. And then we ended off playing against them on cash, and we first half 11-4, and we called a pistol round. Well, Andrea called a pistol round strat, and I was like, we really shouldn't do this. But needless to say, we got so fucked up, it was unbelievable.
Yeah, that was back when
we lost from losing that round. I think I tallied it with Ron. We lost something like 25 straight rounds. Do you know what that does to a team? So exactly. Yeah. And it was 13-2 or something on Nuke, and we went to go into our CT half. Now, just to put this in perspective, we'd had a game where we lost a half 14-1, and we won the game 16-14 from our CT side. Our CT side was ferociously strong. Our T side was next level retarded. And also, I think losing all of those rounds, we just mentally did not reset, and we tried too many things and. But it was one of the great two halves of CS where now that team could do things properly. And I mean, we ended off winning that thing, which effectively won us the comp, because the finals was versus a far less superior team in terms of things, but they in themselves had an epic tournament run. I mean, Dan Spoof, I've got huge respect for him, because he's one of the, I think, with counter stratting and counter immediate understanding teams, he's got to be one of the smartest guys in South African CS, because he's just got this ability to, I mean, he pulled a string of randoms together. They beat DC and DC.
You haven't talked about keyboards.
Oh, Jesus, and then, yes, I just use what I can lose, basically. No, I mean, look, we've all got preferences, but and I mean, the final was a non-event, so to speak. It was 3-0, really easy and things like that. But I mean, it was an epic experience, and I mean, Energy went overseas to ES World Cup, and you know they had their events over there and everything, and we went obviously to Dreamhack. And look, I mean, they were amazing experiences. Obviously, I think, regardless of any way you want to put it, every one of our sides, both them and ours, has disappointment in it, whether it's ES World Cup and things like that.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you want to perform, you want to win, you want to do all of these things. But it's a process. I think it's like anyone going to LAN. You very seldom find players that go to a LAN where you have high level of competition and come out and win it. Actually, for the most part, it happens so frequent in a team-based game. I severely doubt it ever actually really happens where you've got a great level of competition.
Yeah.
And I think I know the community finds it really tough to be patient, but I can tell you this much: not just Bravado, but I think a lot of the other teams are working in a real way where hopefully they can give South Africa one of the first positive results it will ever have in Counter-Strike.
You need a Jamaican bobsled team type thing.
Yeah.
You know, where they just go over and they're not going to
Yeah,
win
but this ain't the 70s or whenever this happened.
You need that sort of thing to come home.
I mean, have you ever seen that chart? Sorry to have you ever seen the chart of it's like a 100-meter freestyle or 50-meter freestyle, and they've got the time comparisons. So the current over the period,
and age groups,
and it just goes like this. I mean, sport is so professional. If we dumped our CS sides back into like 2003, I mean, you'd hate to know what they would do to the rest of the competition just with the knowledge and things like that.
Yeah, it's that ease of access of information as well that we get now from watching VODs, Twitch streams.
Yeah,
but
even it's the youth thing as well. I mean, that sprinter thing, I saw the same thing. What was amazing was I think they said that under 14 time would have got like a gold medal in like the 1940 Olympics or something stupid. That's like
have you seen the 40-year-old swimmers these days? They're jacked.
Yeah.
They look like the Tunnel basically.
Yeah.
So jacked. But I just you're talking about Bravado team moving, changing. Now you after your ESWC trip in 2015, you parted ways with Bravado. Obviously, still staying close to the guys, still playing online a lot. But then you traveled a bit. You're in the States. You played on ESEA there as well as Face It. You played around there, and then they had a team with Rich, obviously Deviant, and now recently Robbie came back from Sweden, and now he's in the team. And I wanted to get you. I did say I was going to ask your thoughts on that. You say you really like this lineup right now. Were you referring to the lineup with Rich, or were you referring to the new lineup now with Robbie? Because I don't think we've actually seen any major games, tournaments yet, besides a couple of DGL matches maybe, but we haven't seen them perform on a LAN as this new squad. And I honestly wanted to get your professional opinion on that, because like I see, like I knew there used to be a lot of heat between both Ashton and Robbie. So I wanted to see what your kind of thoughts on the dynamic in the team and what you think of them going forward.
I think it's important to understand what that Bravado CS team is all about. That Bravado CS team is all about effectively taking the best South African players in their minds for their roles and etc., and giving South Africa the best chance overseas, you know, the one to go. And obviously it's been a project of Dimmy's. I'm hugely proud of this current lineup. I mean, I was having chats to Dimmy about certain things. The one thing, you don't have to look at it statistically, but if you were to look at it a raw statistic, you can actually see Richard actually struggled quite a bit at the last two events. You know, you might not think it, you might not see it or anything like that, whether it's, look, Richard is one of, without a doubt, the most mechanically refined and amazing players I've ever played with and or seen. He just has an ability to create the correct angle, see the things one-on-one, and really, I mean, you know, you talk about certain areas and making them Deviant's home and things like that. I mean, and that it really is a test to the strength of the player. But at the same time, like, this current BVD lineup is really all about huge amounts of effort, both in and out the game itself. You know, guys have made huge sacrifices. You know, Ashton's just one with whether it come to what he's willing to put into his CS and things like that. And I see the results in it myself. But for me, this lineup is chalk and cheese in terms of just how different it is. First and foremost, Robbie, having spent a lot of time playing with Robbie and actually sort of helping him out in his initial days of transition into competitive play, people don't understand how good a fragger Robbie is. Robbie, in my mind, is the best fragger hands down in South Africa with ease. I mean, just the ability. He's not the best player, but he's the best fragger. The ability to put numbers down and clock people and things is unrivaled in South Africa, and that's including anyone. Really is. He's just a phenomenal attribute in a side. Now, you add him into that lineup, it shifts a whole lot of roles across the board.
It does.
Because
it's so confusing right now. You've got Sonic, you've got Ashton, you've got...
It is confusing, but the potential, the ceiling of the team is even higher now. And, it's the same thing when I left, in that my role and attributes and contribution, things like that, and Demi and myself had a chat about it, is unless I was coming into a certain role, I could not add value to the lineup that he was thinking about and things like that. And you have to respect that, because that's what a guy wants to achieve and things like that.
Yeah.
And like Demi is the best player in South Africa, and people go, well, Sonic, this, that, and it's an overall thing, and you'll probably only really understand it when you actually play with him and things like that, and the ability to just a phenomenal player. But you've got unbelievable fraggers. Sonic is a phenomenal talent and a great find. He's really young. He's got oozes talent. Raw skill and ability and things like that. But there are a lot of talented players overseas and things like that who are freaking talented as well.
Yeah.
Now then, you've also got that. Elusive. Elusive Ruan is just he's a great player. He's super consistent. Really, really, really consistent. And he's got an unbelievably good tactile mind. The way he thinks about it, he's always going to make his team and his teammates better around him. And Golly gets a lot of slack and criticism, but he is a phenomenal entry player. He has the ability to turn rounds on his head like no one else. And he can do some messed up stuff. So I look at that package as an overall unit, and I think it needs a little bit of guidance and nurturing and things like that. And I know they're looking into the coaching roles and things like that.
Yeah, that's that. I saw Robbie tweeted not too long ago about looking for an international coach. That is something I think that could put SA to sort of push it to that next level. Just having someone come from, if they manage to get someone who used to play professionally in the EU and stuff like that for top teams.
Just because they play professionally in the EU does not mean they're better, first and foremost, because it becomes about an understanding of the game and how you transition that into play. And also, you've got to understand the meta is constantly changing as well. You know this.
Is it not from a legitimacy side of things? So, you know what I mean? It's like you've got these kids from Africa or whatever who come in to go play their once in a year shot at international kind of stage. To have someone coaching who's kind of at least been there, not only gives them the confidence to go, okay, cool, someone's actually done this before enough times, can help us. But also from the other people looking and going, oh, well, they got an international coach. It's something Bafana have done millions of times and it's failed horribly. But it's a case of going, let's buy an expensive coach because it makes us a legitimate team.
No, I think for me, the value added with a coach there, so if I was coaching BVD, my main fundamental thing, if we got overseas and went with them, would be to settle the players. I think it's the most important thing. You have no understanding of how overwhelming an experience it is and things like that.
And it's not home. It's
no. It's big, and you've only got a couple shots to shine, if not one, and things like that. But you need to realize there are a lot of shots within there to shine and things like that. And it is just a game at the end of the day. They are human at the other end of the keyboard and things like that. And if you can settle that to realize, I've stepped on aim servers with these guys. I don't have the best aim. I've stuffed them out of sight, things like that. But in the gameplay and things like that, and how they fundamentally work as a team versus our errors and things like that, those guys, you give them an inch, they will take a mile.
But isn't it something that, in a weird way, they've gotten used to? I'm talking about the Bravado guys here in South Africa. And I know, obviously, more experience in Dodo, where, just this week, I was supposed to cast a game in the Gigabyte Challenge, and it was BVD versus MDK Cloud's End. And they just FF'd before the game started, 15 minutes before. Cool, we're actually just going to forfeit. Why? Because Bravado, we got no chance.
But,
I don't know if that was the reason, but they just gave the FF. And it's almost this sort of thing of going, you mentioned it there. The guys on the other side of the table are also human. They make errors. You might get them on a bad day. You might synergize really well. You might updraft them.
I'm sorry. I'm not going to play because I'm obviously going to lose.
Yeah, that's not
what sort of fucking approach is that?
You're playing a game because you want to spend the next hour or so doing something you love. Doesn't matter who it's
over time, I've done a lot of work abroad and travel and things like that. It actually hasn't helped my playing career, so to speak, because it's given me big gaps where I haven't been able to
just
commit.
game time, yeah.
So often coming back here, I play in mixes or so at LANs and things like that. And like, I'm so amped to play BVD. Man, I want to stuff them up. I really want to stuff them up.
You've got everything to
just
win
for
and
fun.
nothing to lose.
Well, exactly. And all these things, and teammates are like, whoa, we're going to lose this, we're going to do this.
Like, you know.
I've never had a bad game against them because like I really enjoyed it and it's competitive and expensive. Well, look, I mean, they play fundamental CS and they do it better than anyone else in the country.
It's actually like one thing I always noted about Bravado is it's their CS is it's simple yet perfect at the best times. Like when they're having a really good game, you know, they have their angles, they're patient. Hey boy,
hello.
Actually cats, are you?
Well, if I am and I die just now, just make sure you save me a slice of pizza.
So they play very fundamental CS. It's simple, it's perfect, and they have got some hiccups now and then, but like if everyone's playing their game and everyone's doing well, you know, it's very. How can I say? It looks like it's easy. It looks like it's fun for them.
Well, the game always looks easy when you're getting headshotted.
Like you know, take now. Okay, I'm very very sad that Inferno's out on the map. But take Inferno for example. Like you say, Deviant had his spots. You know, like under the roof, that was Deviant. Left side of mid, that was Dimmy. Like they held those spots. That was their playground, and like that's the kind of simple fundamental stuff. You know, when they got smoked off, flashed out, they had the exact spots to be back to wait, get the information. So
see,
like
that only works locally.
Yeah,
I mean,
it does.
That's something you have to understand is that if you as an individual player are not willing to change, adapt, and alter your game style and things like that. So, for instance, take Rich, just as an example. And I'm not trying to like pick on Oak or anything like that, but it is a shortfall is that if he identifies that this is the role I'm best at, you got to put yourself in uncomfortable zones and things like that, and there are natural transitions, and he's absolutely right in like holding his own. But man, oh man, if you get behind on the economic game, the team uses their resources well and things like that, they can use that to their advantage. And it's really important to understand that your super strength can be your your absolute weakness in this game.
Dominate that area for you.
Because again,
you can fall back on like.
I mean, I remember I was spectating a game that BVD was playing someone the other day, and so I could hear the comms. I was in the TS channel of the opposition, and they were literally like, I was flabbergasted. I mean, they were literally like, he's here, so he must be here, and therefore he's here, or whatever.
Yeah,
or
I've watched them
he's
so many
doing
times.
because they are the example to follow or to exploit or something like that, where it becomes too predictable. And I was literally going like. I spoke to Dimmy afterwards. I was like, listen, you guys got to change your shit up. It's working, but it's way too predictable.
When Kyle and Luca were both coaching me before I hosted that first CSGO event, having never played this game in my life, and we were going through the different teams, I said, BVD, strongest team in South Africa, hands down. But if there is a weakness, it's that their play style is almost so documented and they're so good at a particular play style that if you spent the time and you did the analysis, you could find their weaknesses because they play a very certain way.
Well, and you could find your picks.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? You would, like you said, the fact that if I see this guy here, that means they're playing. So
that's where Dan is really good, like coaching live behind. I mean, we played the ES World Cup final versus Ian, and Dan was in the booth with him. You can't believe the difference he made. We absolutely first map we stuffed them out of sight. I mean, it was like 16-2 or something.
Yeah.
But let's put this into context. We'd newly formed this side, I think, because BVD had a huge sort of roster change up and problems and things like that. And forever since I've known, it's actually had fundamental problems. I mean, before we got Black Poison and Robbie, first off, Robbie was playing on like an old LCD. He was literally playing like 60, 80 FPS, and guys were chirping the living shit out of him. I went to Robbie's house. I lent him a PC for the one LAN and things like that. Ian was coming to him. You know, he's a no-name, he's online, all these things. And I turned around to James and I said, you guys have got big problems coming your way. Like big. Like, because I was spending time with him, and I mean, we locked down our B-site. Inferno was like legendary in SA. I mean, it was unbreachable, basically. I mean, an A site, but there were a whole lot of things that unraveled at that LAN and whatnot, and it came down to effort that guys were putting in. So, you know, B site strong, A site was weak. I mean, Demi had like 150 hours in CSGO at the LAN or whatever, and Andrea.
Was that the IS Invitational?
No. That was, I updated my CS at the IS Invitational, but IS Invitational, we lost one match to DC 2-1. and we were out the comp because of the way the structure worked. I mean, it was.
Man, we've come a long way from.
But we also had Dean at that tournament as well. I mean, people forget this. Dean was playing Battlefield and CS and Battlefield and CS and whatnot, and we were in a serious problem. So obviously we picked up Robbie after that, and credit where it's due as well, because I think Ian formed, and then we lost LibLan just in the final. It was an insane final. I mean. Robbie started to come out there. He didn't quite have his game and things like that. He had moments of brilliance and whatnot, but I mean, he played really well.
Yeah,
I played really well as well there. And then we kind of had Rich, Demi, and Andrea just sort of inconsistently performing between them. Richard would have a really good game, and it was just odd shit going on as well. And Demi would have moments of amazing, but he hadn't really developed into CSGO. Pretty much gambling got Demi into CSGO when skins came out. No, honestly, it was so funny. And I mean, Andrea is a phenomenal tactile leader. He really is. He's nitty, he's gritty, but gets shit done, and he understands the numbers game. But then, Robbie, so I had a nuts 2013. I was playing phenomenal CS in comparison to everyone else. And Robbie and Demi started coming online in 2014. They really just exploded into their own little zones, and they just dominated it as well. And obviously, I think 2015 was pretty much the year of Demi in terms of local scenes. I mean, made this lineup to go to eSports Cup LAN or whatever. No one even saw us coming. EGE LAN, we didn't drop a freaking map. We destroyed everyone. The only player who played against us, or it felt like, was Golly at that LAN. But from Ian's point of view, Sonic hadn't really fired.
He's still very nervous.
He hadn't really fired. And I mean, Ron's always going to be consistent. I think Tian was writing his doctors and exams and everything. So between getting drunk, gaming, and doing that, I mean, he was probably one step away from a nervous wreck or something like that. And so, I mean, we easily walked away. That was a absolutely one-sided affair at that LAN. And it was so surprising because we brought on Leon, who's an absolute talent. I mean, Leon is crazy. I mean,
from StarCraft to Dota,
absolutely crazy. And I mean, Leon was a mad little find. I mean, ultimately, Leon's lack of experience in CS came in and kind of unraveled him to an extent. But I'll tell you what, the ability to do some messed up stuff, Leon's got it.
You guys had Anthem at some stage as well.
Yeah, so Chris left.
A month.
Chris left. So Chris left. He just didn't see himself. So Dean was in that lineup as well, because I wasn't keen to jam at that stage.
Yeah, you went away for a while and came back.
Yeah, I said to to Demi that I wasn't. It was actually kind of a weird time and period, because Andrea and myself, after 2013, we had a big clash of heads and things like that, because him and myself were very vocal about what we thought, and I was, to be fair, being way too critical of him as a person, and contributing and things like that. And in 2014, after Rage and Dreamhack and things, Andrea, I said I'm not keen to play after all that, and Andrea actually stepped down, which was a really, really sad point, but in many ways I thought it was a great opportunity as well. And then I sort of spoke to Demi and things like that. They had this change up in their lineup where Dean got dropped and I stepped in for Hackham. And then what happened was Chris said he's not keen to jam, honestly, about 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
Or a week later. It was crazy, hey?
He did the exact same thing 2 weeks ago, right? He started playing for WRG.
Well, yeah, I mean, Chris is a mean of consistency, isn't he? And so we ended off doing this, and dude, we were in a serious pickle. Who the fuck are we going to pick up now? And we formed this with Leon. We had a couple games here and there. Then things started clicking, and I mean, obviously we went to this LAN. When I say we destroyed teams, we absolutely, I mean, Zero side or whatever, we 16-0'd them or so. It was insane what we did to other teams, and it was really funny because we didn't really care. It was just a mix and things.
That team, correct me if I'm wrong, it was you, Demi, Talani, Leon, and Richard.
Yeah, so we owned that LAN. I mean, it was quick. I mean, it was a vacation for us basically. And despite what anyone wants to say, I think it was that easy. And then we went to, I mean, like I said, Golly was playing like crazy though at that stage, And then we went to the ES World Cup thing, and we had an absolutely similar sort of ride all the way to the final. I mean, I remember on those desks though, it was so funny. Because I'm more like team-based player, I was playing with my mouse pad half off the table and my keyboard on my lap on the thing, just so the rest of my team could have like space. And Leon needs about that much space to turn, like it's such a high sense and everything. And I mean, there we also did like that Aperture Gaming team. We gave him 16 as well.
Yeah, that
was a rough introduction to a lad.
Those are like the quad guys.
Devoid. Actually, really skilled. Like that was Doms. Doms was having some FPS issues there, but it didn't matter. We ruffle stomped them, whatever. But I mean, really funny, good guys and stuff. And they actually ended up beating Defect. Which I was like, guys, how do you lose a defect? But I still maintain if I was defect there, I would be like, guys, I don't care what controversy there is, you should not be losing that game. And I was like, Yokes must go home, basically. No, because it's such a mad lineup on paper and things like that, and that defect line is much more capable than people gave it credit for. But and then we met Ian in the final. And we had a one map advantage on the first map was Inferno. It was 16-2 was the score. I mean, it was so one-sided, it was unbelievable. Third map, second map technically, so 2-0 up in the grand final. And we played Dust 2. And we're steaming ahead nicely. I think we're like, I forget, but we're like 13-9 or 7 up or something. And we walk into the B bomb site and something got his clutch on there.
Our cameraman missed that.
But the only reason... And you better highlight this on the stream. The only reason he won that round, made that magnificent, Dimmy missed a jump. Because I went out and Dimmy should have traded me, and they had nothing on them. And that swung the momentum so hard in their favor that particular round. And he had P215 armor or something ridiculous like that. I mean, AK is so fully loaded, the economy so on our side, everything like that. And dude, that final went right down to the wire. I mean, on Cobble was back to one-sidedness. Thank goodness. Tulani had a great final map there. He really did. I had a really, really poor finals, just generally from my sort of standard and point of view. But I mean, all things, my dynamic in the team and my roles were quite different to what I'm really, really strong at, but that's what the team needed me for, and that's what I was going to do and things like that. So,
And now looking forward now, you say you're obviously traveling quite a bit. You're in the US for...
I'm going back there on the 2nd of June though.
All right, so you obviously, you sound like, listen to you talk, you still have a lot of passion for CS that you can.
But
and you want to play.
It irks me so hard. I was like, APG lose a player, and I'm like,
ooh, maybe.
No. But I would never do that on a principal thing, because also James has been really cool. He's lent me a monitor while I've been out here, so that wouldn't fucking rest well with me at all. And I'd never want that to be done to me either.
But you're still playing a lot of casual. I mean, I see your pickups. I've met you in a couple of pickups, and you're playing this weekend in the...
So I got invited to the mix thing. So we got our legendary mix, which is it's actually undefeated pretty much. It's Dion TC, Golly Ash, and then Real Elusive, and then James is actually playing with us as well. He's standing 5th. He irked his way in there, but no. We'll have James. He's a rock star, and it's a good vibe. So we'll have lots of fun.
I'm actually, like I said, I haven't sharkcasted CS:GO since February, so I'm actually quite excited. It's not going to be like a serious match. We have to deep.
Don't worry, I'll come help cast the game if I get a chance. But you can't cast yourself in the grand final. Obviously, it's kind of tough.
Hints. I mean, everyone's hungry here. I can see it in the eyes.
Yeah, let's get some grab.
Is that the segue we're using?
Yeah, I'm really sorry that I don't think we got onto too much technical stuff, bravado surrounding and things like that.
The podcasts have zero direction. People.
It shows.
People just want to hear us talk. They want to just hear some things. And I mean, I actually learned a lot of things today, not necessarily about you, but about the actual CS scene and obviously
the
a lot of the
dynamics
intricacies in the actual teams and stuff like that. So thank you. That was fantastic.
No, it was freaking awesome.
And like I said, I guess we will definitely have you back.
Sweet.
When you get back from the States, try and go to some events over there if you can.
I'm going to try. I mean, I did get invited to Philadelphia, but obviously I'm not there, which kind of really, really sucks and whatnot. But I mean, I will say this, like the future here is actually really bright and it's super exciting, and it's really down to like everyone, not just around this table and things like that, but you add so much value to the overall community and just strive for better the whole time. It's really freaking important.
There are all these niches that need to be filled for us to work. It's like people have this feeling like, we'll have a big tournament, drop R1 million and everything will just fall into place. So it's like one piece.
I would love to coach Bravado, but I don't know if I could not play. You know what I mean? It's kind of like one of those sort of things.
Like, man, I'll do that so differently. Come on.
I mean, how many coaches just you go back to play?
We need the podcasts, and we need the guys making, doing shoutcasts. We need the players. We need the coaches. Like there are all these places, and I think if anything, this is like a casting call to the gaming industry.
Yeah. So we're dropping hints. James zero chance. James zero chance. Time to get into the side.
Yeah, we should have James on for a chat. I mean, he's an interesting chap. But thank you so much, Dane. Thank you so much, Gareth.
Thank you.
Luca, thanks for the camera.
Thank you very much, guys.
Appearance. I'm gonna get
Freaking
some
awesome.
We're getting the pizza sponsors.
Here at Arena, we create and render all of our content on beast machines built by Asus, Republic of Gamers. If you're keen to play the newest AAA titles or get into content creation, holler at our friends from Asus South Africa and they'll get you in touch with the right people for the right machine.